feel fat today. And now you feel fat today also. You're welcome. And now there's a podcast.
I feel fat today. Hello. Thank you so much for joining. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. You know that because you're tuning in. I actually do feel so fat right now because I didn't steal. Steal is not the right word, but my job had provided Chipotle burritos the other day at work, like 2 days ago, which was very nice. And I saw when I was leaving the office today, 2 days later, that there was still a burrito in the fridge, and on it, it had a big V written in Sharpie on the foil, indicating to me that that was in fact a veggie burrito. And I was looking at it. I was the last one to leave the office today, and I was looking at it, and I just thought, I don't know, a veggie burrito, this is going to go to waste. And I hate waste, and I hate spending money. So this veggie burrito is coming home with me. So I swiped it. So I feel like if anybody was going to take the burrito, today was the cutoff. Because I let things go, but 2 days, I don't know. And it's veggie. It's not like it even had like, chicken or sofritas or whatever in there. So, it was anyone's burrito, and I made it my burrito. So I just ate that. And I have a rule with Chipotle. I'm only allowed to have it once a quarter, because I'm not into skinifying. I don't want to make a non-fat skinny latte version of my Chipotle. I want to just get it the way that I enjoy it. And if I do that, then I limit myself to only getting it once a quarter. But this was free, and it was provided by the office, and I wasn't able to select how I would like my burrito. It was a real get what you get kind of thing. And so in 1 week, I've had 2 Chipotle burritos because I selected a chicken burrito on Tuesday for lunch, as was provided by the office. And then I just ate the veggie burrito for dinner. And the body's not meant to consume that many Chipotle burritos in 1 week, in one time frame. So that's why I limit to Chipotle to once a quarter. Will I wait till Q2 to have a Chipotle my way? Probably, just because, I don't really crave Chipotle too much. But if I do this quarter, I still feel like, because I didn't get to make it my way, I still could and should. I mean, these rules are all arbitrary anyways. Wow. What was I saying? Hey, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it. We got a great episode this week. I know I said that every week, but I can't help it that I just interview really funny and interesting guests. So sorry you're in for a really great episode. You may have noticed, if you are returning from last week, that there was no intro, no video intro, no audio intro. And part of it is, when I look at the structure of this podcast, me being a singular person that is, making this whole show run, aside from, my guests donating their time and stories to me, I thought, I'm not gonna, make it impossible for myself to get this episode out. Let's try it with no intro. And I gotta say, I kind of liked it. It made the episode a little bit shorter. If you are a weekly listener, which I hope you are, and if you are, I love you so much. I deeply respect you. You have the right opinion on everything, et cetera, et cetera. There might be some episodes where there's an intro like this, where I'm just on the microphone and we're chit-chatting. There might be intros where it's full video. You see me sitting at my desk, my nice little, I don't even know what I call it, but I like sitting there because I have my little gallery wall all around me. You can kind of peer into what it's like to be me when I have the nice video intro. Sometimes we have a cool story or something, or I go off on some tangent about something new in the diet culture world before bringing the guest on. Or you might tune in one day, one week, and it just goes straight into the episode. So playing around with the format a little bit, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And I hope you stick with me while I figure that out. I hate change, which is part of the reason why I keep everything the same every week. But we gotta switch it up. We gotta try it on a little bit. Okay, I definitely want to get back to having these nice video intros, just because I feel like it's my way of connecting, giving a nice update on my life before we hear from the guest. But that's not what's happening this week. But before I bring on my amazing guest, please, we gotta do the housekeeping. I need you to subscribe on YouTube. Please, I'm really trying to grow the channel. We're close to 400 subscribers. I think right now we're at like 375, 376 maybe. I don't know. But we're so close. So if you're listening to this, please subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe and then, forget about it entirely. I would appreciate it. No, that's not true. I do want you to listen to the show and watch it on YouTube. But, we got cute dogs. We got cute cats in the video a lot of the time. So please subscribe there. Like the videos. Comment the videos. Share to your friends. Let them know about the show. And if you haven't already, please go over to Apple Podcasts where you can follow the show there. You'll get notified when the show comes out every Friday. And you can leave a 5-star review. That also helps. I put a lot of work into this. It's completely free, and the only payment I need is your love and adoration in the form of 5-star reviews and subscribing to the YouTube. You can also check for updates on the show, and it's a fun follow at I Feel Fat Today over on Instagram. And you can follow me at Hello, This is Kelly, so that I can perform stand-up at a town or club near you, because that's some of the only ways to get booked these days is to have a following on the internet, which I'm working on, but doing a bad job at. So I also take follows as a form of payment. And yeah, I love you all so much. My guest this week has a really interesting story, and I gotta say, he really put up with the animals this week because, when my guest came over to record, I was dog sitting for a neighbor, and the little dog Grimly really took a liking to him and kind of was all over the place. So you'll see that, a nice little bonus feature, if we want to call it that. I was rather annoyed, but what am I going to do? Dog is a dog. Yeah, okay. We're going to get into it. I hope you're ready. I hope you like it. My guest this week is stand-up comedian Harshil Shukla. Amazing. Oh, Harshil, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
I realize I don't remember your last name.
Yeah, so it's Shukla.
Shukla.
And so my Instagram handle is like a phonetic spelling. It's like
I like
Shukla.
that.
Yeah. So
clever.
But yeah, that's what it is.
Clever boy.
I know. Thank you.
Love
Everyone's
it.
like, is that a White Claw reference? I was like, no, I thought of it before White Claws were a thing. But yeah.
I just thought it was a good handle.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Mysterious if you don't know the backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you live in New York City. Where are you from?
I do. I grew up. I'm from Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
Like that's where I lived, like 6th grade onwards.
Yeah.
So that's like formative years. Before that, I was in North Dakota.
Okay.
Not a lot of people you meet from North Dakota.
Yeah.
That was like 1st through 5th grade, and then Chicago before that, and then I was born in India. So kind of all over, but like Midwest boy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
was it work that brought your parents over?
Yeah, so my dad was, I mean, he is a doctor, but he was like a surgeon in India, and just wanted to come to America and, have a better life, opportunities for his kids, and just, standard of living and stuff. And so he had to do like residency all over again, which is what you have to do if you're like a foreign medical grad.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like he was supporting a family of four, me, my sister, my mom, him, in Chicago, while working like crazy resident hours. Like this was before they had like laws about like how long you could work and stuff.
Yeah.
And then after he graduated, like none of us were citizens, obviously. And then there was this program going on in America where like if you move to like bumfuck places, then like the government would like sponsor your and your family status. And one of those places that was in need of like physicians was rural North Dakota.
Wow.
So that's how we ended up there. And then so we were there for a few years. We went to another city in North Dakota, and then once like the immigration status and process allowed, we like moved to the big Minneapolis suburbs.
The big city.
Yeah, so it was like job / like necessity oriented moves, but yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's all up in Finn's grill.
I know.
Grimley is going home tonight, which is welcomed. It's very welcomed. I do love Grim, though.
Grimley's chilling.
Well, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and how old were you when you moved over?
I was like a baby. I was like 2. So I was like, I don't remember living there and stuff, but like, it was like English is not my first language still though. And like,
totally.
I learned other languages, like, what we spoke in the home and all of that. And then like Chicago, like when we lived in like Chicago, like that's where I did kindergarten, preschool and stuff. Like that was still like pretty diverse.
Yeah.
And then moving to like rural North Dakota was like very different. And so I
mean, it's interesting the program that you brought up, that if you move to Middle America, you'll be sponsored.
Yeah. It was like,
I wonder what that was about.
Yeah, I think it was just like there were just places that like American doctors just didn't want to go and work, or like they just had a dearth of physicians in like these rural places, and they're like, who will go there? Immigrants.
Yeah,
and
like immigrants doing jobs people don't want.
And it's doctors. And it's like it's any like status of work. Not that all work is great, but like so that's I don't know. I want to look into it. It must have been like some sort of like, I don't know, this is in the news right now, but some sort of like H-1B sponsorship for like you and your family if you move to these places in need. But I didn't mind it at all. Like as a kid, like I think in retrospect now when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how we live there. But it was like a town of like 1,000 people. And this was like pre 9/11, which maybe helped. But it was like, it was weird if you locked your car door or like your front door. Like I rode my bike everywhere. My parents like didn't have to worry about anything. Like always outside, like playing with friends and like doing like the whole Americana, like baseball in the park thing. So it was a cool place to grow up as a kid. I'm sure like my parents faced like a lot more stuff that I don't know about. Like being adults with accents and being different than everyone else. But I didn't like as a kid, like I thought it was like cool. Like,
you were just chilling.
Fun. Yeah, I was just chilling.
Did your mom work?
She worked like in India, and then she worked like on and off here. And like but she works now, but like she stayed home a lot to like just raise me and my sister.
Okay, it's just the two of you.
Yeah, it's just the two of us. I have an older sister.
Older sister, so you're the baby.
I'm the baby.
Okay. Does that ring true? Do you have younger sibling tendencies?
I think to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I used to be so fucking annoying, I think, when I was a kid. Like when I like think about myself, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like I like just no self-awareness and like needing like attention and like clearly that's been solved now. I think younger sibling energy, but I think like within the confines of like knowing, not in like a bad power structure way, but like knowing our place, sort of like we're new here, we're like helping our parents who are like not struggling but like trying their hardest and like bringing us here, so like let's just be good kids to the extent that we can. And like my sister is a great older sister and much more mature than me, despite only being 3 years older. So like I think that helped. But
okay. So it's interesting that you said that even though you grew up in like middle America, you didn't really feel different or other. I mean, maybe when you look back, it's a little bit more apparent. But at the time, it didn't feel that way.
There were moments where like it definitely felt that way.
Right.
And as like a kid, it's just like such a foreign feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not Christian and everyone in the town was Christian, like went to like this one church.
Yeah,
I remember
ask about that.
Yeah, I remember like
Sorry.
like it's okay. Hello. I remember like kids would ask me like, "Oh, like why aren't you at church every Sunday?" And instead of like telling the truth, I would just be like, "Oh, I go to one like far away."
Right.
Just so like didn't have to like explain it.
Right.
And but then like it would always be weird. Like I was like 5, 6 years old, and like parents of these kids would be like, "So Herschel, do you believe in God?"
Oh my God, that's
and I was
so
like,
weird.
Yeah, like I think it's just like having these like existential like
Right.
questions like thrown at you by adults.
Yeah.
Like when you're 6, like that was strange.
Right.
Like I think it was like just like curiosity. It was like there was definitely ignorance, and having to like respond to that as a kid was like I think it like made me grow up a little faster in terms of that aspect.
Right.
But while there was a lot of ignorance, I didn't feel, at least like when I was a kid, like a disdain or like we don't like that. It was just like we don't know we have never seen anyone that doesn't look like us. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
You're
so
very alien.
Yeah, and my dad was like one of 3 doctors in the town, so like there was a high there was a 1/3 chance my dad was their doctor, and so they're like that kind of built some trust too, like amongst the community.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, like we were members of the Sons of Norway.
What's
which is like,
that?
So like everyone's Norwegian, like
Okay.
at least in that town, and a lot of people in like Minnesota and North Dakota have like Scandinavian ancestry, and the Sons of Norway was like the cultural like center, and so
Okay.
like we would like go to all these events as like this brown family, like celebrating like Norway and like Scandinavian culture.
'Cause it was social.
Yeah, it was social. It's like we're gonna be a part of this, but like we involved ourselves in the community as much as we could,
Right.
which I think was, we didn't do it to like gain trust, but I think that like for other people it was like, oh look, like they're hanging out, like they're not just like being insular or whatever.
Right.
Like so.
Do you remember if there were food at these events?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What
There's-
was that like?
So I'm a big fan of lefse, which is a
What's
Norwegian
that?
snack.
Okay.
It's like a potato-based like flatbread.
Okay.
And then you can put like cinnamon, butter, sugar in it,
Ooh.
which is very good.
Yeah.
Me and my family are vegetarians though, so like that was about the only thing we could eat. There was like, there's this thing called lutefisk, which is this type of like, I don't know for sure. I hope the Norwegian community doesn't come after me, but it's like some sort of like salted like aged fish, I think, and
Okay.
it's like disgusting.
Right.
Generally, I think like I'm sure if you like it, you like it. But yeah, there was food stuff, and so yeah, it's like an interesting thing to like think about. Like I lived in North Dakota. It's like so disconnected
Yeah,
from me
that's
now.
so
but
weird.
Yeah.
But you know what's so funny? You're talking about this, and then you said your whole family is vegetarian. I'm like, oh yeah, people thought they were strange.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're
for sure.
vegetarian.
Oh yeah, it's like there's like that scene in like My Big Fat Greek Wedding where he's like, I'm a vegetarian, and she's like, it's okay, I'll make lamb.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. It was just like
Totally.
question again from parents. Like people were very hospitable. Like I'd stay for they'd be like, oh, you want to stay for dinner? I'd be like, oh, it's very kind. But then it would almost feel like this, like I was letting them down.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can't eat that. Like I can't. Like I'm othering myself sort of in this
Totally.
way. That's why like. When people are like, oh, how do you know someone's a vegan or vegetarian? Like, they'll tell you. I was like, dude, I kept that concealed as long as I could. Like, it was not
It was
cool.
great
I
shame.
didn't want people to know anything. I already have like a weird name, different skin color,
Right.
like new. And it's like anything I can do to like not be further different, like I didn't want to highlight. So
Yeah.
it's like interesting.
Maybe this is a question that's coming from my own ignorance, so I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
did anyone ever like say anything weird or racist or not nice about like lunches you would bring to school?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, for sure. Like my
Yeah.
mom would like painstakingly make these like great lunches that were like kind of like a hybrid of like Indian food, but like with like a portable like American style twist.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like sometimes I like wouldn't even eat them. Like I would like try to just go get like whatever I could eat from like the school lunches or whatever.
Yeah.
Although I will say, to the credit of like this small town energy, like the lunch lady would make me and my sister like separate vegetarian like hot food in the cafeteria.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is cool.
That's
like
so
it's so
cool.
like nice.
Yeah.
So to the extent I did bring like school lunches, like there were always questions like, what is that? And like, you know, like it'd be like, I don't know. I wouldn't have the language to even explain it.
Totally.
Because
Like,
I
this
was
is
just,
what my mom
yeah,
made.
this is just, you know, this is roti. I don't know what you
Yeah.
what do you want me to call it? But yeah, there was also that like kind of like Midwest hospitality, like that that like was nice. But yeah, there were also like just like, I remember on my first day of first grade in this small town, there was like this group of girls that like came up to me, and I was just like alone, obviously at recess, and they're like, you can't play here because you're brown. I was like, what? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I live here now, so I think I can play like at recess, you know? And so I was just like, this, like, it didn't even make me sad. I was just like, this is so weird. Like coming from like a
Interesting.
diverse place like Chicago, I'm
Right.
like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But like, you know, it was just like strange. It was like, yeah, I don't know.
And that was first grade.
That was first grade.
These
First day of
little
school.
bitches.
I know.
Little
This, like,
bitches.
this first day of school, like at this new place, like first grade, like, like I'm trying to write a bit about it, like now, like where like I forget that I'm brown until I'm like reminded by white people.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
that makes perfect
And that
sense.
was like kind of like the first instance of that.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you're telling me I'm different when I didn't even like feel self-conscious about it.
Right.
You
right.
know.
Now I'm aware.
Yeah. Now I
Yeah.
did. Now I do feel that way. It's yeah. It was interesting. But-
Okay, interesting. So what was it then like where'd you go to college?
I went to Penn in Philadelphia.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
He's being, and like Finn is like the fun police. He like doesn't like it when people are having a good time.
Yeah.
So this is really upsetting to him.
This is a great dynamic,
You
though.
got to go
This is a great
over
dynamic.
here. Yeah, he's like a grumpy old man, and this is like a young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
Okay, go lay down. There you go. See, now you're coughing. It's a whole thing. Okay, so you went to school in Philadelphia, and
Yeah.
so you went from like middle America,
Yeah.
city-ish,
Yeah.
hard on the ish,
Right.
going to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was a change. You know, like suburban Minnesota, where like I did 6th grade through high school, was like definitely very homogenous and all that. Hello, but but like Minneapolis is like a metropolitan area, and like I visit there from time to
Yes.
time, which was like cool. But like I was like in tune with my culture, like at home, I would say, but not really like showcasing that publicly in
Yeah.
any sort of way. And then when I went to Penn, I like joined this like South Asian a cappella group.
Oh, nice.
And so that was like kind of like diving into like this deep end of like people that look like me, that like, you know, a lot of them like grew up here also, but had like varied backgrounds. And so that was really cool. And like, yeah, Philadelphia itself is like a very diverse place. So, but it is interesting. Like, even if you go to these sorts of places that are like diverse, like people kind of just form their own like segregated factions anyway.
Totally.
for
I
the
was
most
thinking
part,
that as
you know?
you were speaking.
Yeah. So it's like, it was cool in terms of like getting in tune with my own culture and like
Right.
meeting people that like knowing that we're not a monolith, and like where it doesn't have to be like all the stereotype like nerdy Indian kids or
Right.
whatever. Like there's a wide spectrum of people that exist within like the South Asian diaspora.
Yeah.
But I remember like we threw like a party at like the house, which was like kind of associated with this a cappella group. So it was like South Asian, but like it was like a fun party, and like there were like white people that like came in and they were having a good time, and then I think they noticed the equilibrium go more towards brown, and then they all started like leaving. I was like, oh, you guys should stay. Like, what's up? They're
Yeah.
like, no, like we want to let you guys like. You guys can do your thing, and
we
I
don't
was
want
like,
to whitewash your party.
yeah. I was like, oh, it just became uncool in your eyes or
Yeah.
something. It's like it goes back to that same moment. It's like I thought we were all having a good time until
Right.
you said something that made me
You
feel
made it
yeah,
weird.
exactly. You
Yeah.
made it weird. So yeah, it's interesting. You went to school in Jersey.
Yes.
Was it diverse?
It was diverse. And I was thinking as you were talking how I went to Catholic school my whole life.
Oh, word.
And my high school was like a regional high school for like it was the least expensive Catholic school in my area.
Okay.
So my high school did have like a good amount of like Spanish kids,
Cool.
a smattering of black kids.
Yeah.
You know, but I was trying to think, I was like, I don't feel like I went to school with many, Indian kids
Yeah.
or brown kids.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's funny because if I did, they were probably very quiet.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And just not and my high school was also super small, so it doesn't jump out to me. But
Yeah.
I went to college, and then that's when my first roommate freshman year actually was this awesome chick. Her name was Isha.
Mm-hmm.
She's Indian.
Shout out Isha.
Shout out Isha. I wish we were friends, girl. If you see this, like I like had to go and like join a sorority and like do that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I also was a freshman when she was a junior because like
okay.
my housing got messed up, so I
Got it.
was in a junior dorm room.
That's kind of cool.
It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
my vibe at the time, it was perfect
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she was like into bands like Guided by Voices, and like I was like trying to be cool and indie, so I
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
very
yeah.
cool. And then eventually I was like, nah, I'm gonna go be a dumb sorority girl.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, and it was like I don't even really think about how like it was the first time I was like living with someone outside of being white. It
Right.
was weird, and because when I have people on the show and we talk about like food from their culture and
Yeah.
stuff like that, I think about how I think I maybe was in high school the first time I had sushi.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until college till my world opened up to this like whole world of flavors.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because like I really wasn't friends with like Jewish people or Asian people.
Sure.
Anything like that. And like now like my group of college is all like diverse
Yeah.
people. So definitely kind of like I was like, it's weird when you're white and you go into a situation now where there's other cultures. Like I definitely am more aware of the other cultures than the cultures are of me.
Oh, word. Yeah,
You
that's
know?
fair. Yeah. The thing you just mentioned about like trying the foods, I remember like growing up, in Minnesota, like no one had really tried Indian food, like like friends from high school or whatever, and like some of like the cool open-minded ones would stay for dinner and like try like my mom's cooking, and I was like, whoa, like are you sure? And then we'd have to like over-explain everything, like what everything
Right.
is and stuff. And then I remember in college, like the first week of college, was some like orientation event or whatever, and the food that was catered was Indian food, and I was like, my mind was blown.
Right.
I was like, all these white kids are gonna eat Indian food? I was like, do we have to explain to them what it is? But I was like, no, people just like went up and like ate it. I was
Right.
like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
I was like, this is cool. And I remember like the next day was like Ethiopian, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
like just like this is the food, eat it, and yeah, like it's just another cuisine that you can like eat and like enjoy. It's just like
Yeah.
I like it was such like a burden I guess I put on myself
Totally.
of like this is weird, no one's gonna like this, like I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
explain it, like whatever. While like when I went to college, just like this is the food that's here, like eat it. And
Yeah.
so it was an interesting shift.
I know, and it's also funny seeing other cultures making their way into like fast casual.
Oh
food.
yeah,
Isn't that funny to see?
It is, yeah.
Because like I feel like Mexican was like the easiest,
Right.
Well, Americanized Mexican,
Yeah.
the easiest thing to be fast casual, and like now there are like Chipotle like places
Yeah.
for Indian.
Yeah,
food.
there are. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, like when they think about Indian food, it's like kind of like a takeout staple.
Yes.
And now there's like very elevated Indian too, like very like upscale Michelin starred. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's been around for a while, but like it's like on the map now.
Mm.
And that's also cool to see. But the fast casual thing is like cool. That's a good like symbol of like you're accepted in America.
Yeah, totally.
If your food is like has a fast casual. If they're asking you like, do you want a bowl or a wrap for your
Right.
cuisine? Like you've made it.
If there's an app-based
Yeah,
Indian food,
Yeah, that's how you know you've made it.
establishment,
Yeah. Would you like
if I have to go into the iOS store to gain
Yeah.
points to go to
yeah,
this
totally.
restaurant.
You've made it. You're accepted in America.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's funny that you said that though about like it being seen as cheap takeout as opposed to like and now more like finer restaurants,
Yeah.
because I guess I didn't even consider that. Like I think of it as more of like the less expensive takeout option.
Right.
Have you ever been to London?
I have.
Best Indian
lot
food.
of Indian food.
It's so good. I
Lot-
was just there.
it is
I ate
good.
that, and I had Chinese takeout because I saw
Yeah.
on TikTok the Chinese takeaway is really good. But
Oh,
I
yeah?
ate so much Indian food.
Did you go to this place called Dishoom when you were there?
Dishoom, I
That's
would
like
have
a
to
common
look.
spot. Okay,
I
yeah,
would
it's
have to
quite
look. I stayed in this area called King's Cross Station.
Oh yeah.
There were like spot after like a whole just row of like
Right.
pick your poison.
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
Like go it. You know.
Oh yeah, they have amazing Indian spots, but I do think it's funny, like British people, like English people, when you're like you try to make fun of their cuisine.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's like terrible food. They're like, actually, butter chicken is our national dish. It's like, yeah, but why do you think that
Why do
is?
you think that
like,
is?
how did that happen? You know, it's like you didn't fucking.
Right.
But yeah, they do to their credit. They have a lot of good Indian spots. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so good. I remember one of the first times I ever sat at a restaurant and had Indian food was actually after college. It was the summer after I graduated college. My mom took me and my older brother and my aunt on a trip to Dublin because we had
cool.
family and cousins living there. So we go and we were just like walking around, not in Dublin. This was like in a town outskirts. And the only thing that was open on a Sunday was this Indian place. Yeah. So we pop in and I just remember my brother and I looked at each other and we were like, this is delicious. Yeah. Like, what is this? You know, and it was because my aunt, who always was like more liberal and cultured, was like, oh, this place would probably be good. And my mom, my brother and I are like, I mean, yeah, we'll go in, but we don't know. Right. And it was, our minds were blown and we were like, what? And it was the first time and dare I say the best, because you're always chasing that dragon. You know? From the first time you tried. Indian food, from a white person's perspective. Oh yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that the Indian place was open on a Sunday. Like they're going to be working all 7 days for sure.
100%. It was like 2 p.m. on a Sunday. Not a thing was open.
Oh yeah, they're going to be open. I always, whenever I go to Europe, I remember like I went on this like long Italy trip, and then like I love Italian food. It's great. The ingredients fresh, all that. But I was like, I need some motherfucking spice. I need I looked for like an Indian restaurant. There was like one Indian restaurant in Florence.
Oh wow.
And like I went there and I was like, this is what I need. Like just as a reset from like the pasta and the cheese and all that. So I try to find Indian places and like places you wouldn't assume they would be anywhere I go. Yeah. But it's worth it. It's good.
So this is going back a little bit. Yeah. We're jumping around. I'm all over the place all the time. Yeah. But I'm curious, so like when you would bring like lunches to school that were different, you wouldn't eat, you know, you would sometimes skip lunch.
Yeah, yeah.
Did that ever like, I'm curious if that ever came up again in your life, like with food?
That's a good question.
You know, like where it's like, I don't know, like I'm a little bit apprehensive or nervous, and so like I'm not going to take this out and eat it. Or has that come up in other parts of your life?
I think so. Like I think it was like shame oriented.
Yeah.
When it came to like at least even like when my friends would come over and they'd be like, do you have any snacks?
Yeah.
And I would have literally like our pantry would be full of like Indian snacks, like very, very good Indian snacks, sweets, all that stuff. But like we didn't have like fucking Cheetos or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no. And they're like, you don't have any snacks? I'd be like, no, like I don't think so. And then like one day, like a friend who's like, you know, I was close with just like went into the pantry. He's like, you have all this shit. Like, what is this shit, dude? I was like, nah, you're not gonna like, I don't know, man. Like, just don't.
You're like shielding them.
It's like I don't think like, and then like it was a big hit. Like everyone fucking loved it. And so it's like, yeah, it's just like this shame, fear of like rejection or being made fun of or like having to defend like an entire culture or my parents or all this stuff where I'm just like trying to get by.
Right.
And so like, yeah, I think it would come up in those ways. Just like self-inflicted shame-based stuff of like a lack of sharing stuff or like a lack of being honest with like what was actually there and like rather than like a pride in it. And it's like, if you don't like it, then fuck you, like whatever. Right. It's just being like, I'm sorry, it's spicy, you know, like, you know, like I'm sorry, it's better than whatever you're eating at home. But like, you know, it's like, yeah, that's I haven't thought about that actually. Like it's like brings back like a very like visceral memory of like trying to like shield things or hide things when it's like if I would have just maybe just taken ownership of it, it would have like with confidence maybe just would have been accepted.
Right, so. But it doesn't feel like that was even a little bit accessible of having the confidence in it.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you're kind of you spent your whole life assimilating.
Right.
So, and it's funny because as you were talking, I was thinking, I'm from Saraville, New Jersey, which is like very big Indian population.
Okay.
You know Danish?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's not Indian, but like, we have a big brown people population.
Oh,
I only
okay,
feel
got it.
comfortable saying that because we
Yeah.
have acting class together,
Yeah,
and
we
our
do.
acting teacher is always referring to
Oh, yeah.
you guys as the brown.
Browns. Yeah, he's like funnily, jokingly racist, but he's very specific and knowledgeable, so it makes it okay.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. None of it
Just to,
is
like, get us motivated. It's
has
all-
even like a hint of bigotry.
No,
in
it's
it.
so funny. He's like, this guy's Gujarati. I was like, how do you even know that, dude? Like, you can't trust him. You know, I'm like, hell yeah, James.
Oh,
Yeah,
we have the best acting teacher
He's the
ever.
best.
Anyways, so I remember my mom was went back to school when I was like in middle school to
Yeah.
get like her bachelor's degree. So she had a class where probably one of those like cultures around the world classes or whatever, like a public health whatever. So she had I guess was assigned India, and she had to go and like get snacks and
Cool
stuff
Yeah.
from India. And so because we live in Saraville, she was able to find a place.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, I was like remembering like going to this place for the first
Oh yeah,
time.
you went to the Indian grocery store?
Yeah, I went to the
Oh,
Indian
that's
grocery store
awesome.
with
That's
her.
an experience.
And I can still smell the spices. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're like, it's ingrained in my brain.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
walking in for the first time, and like all I've ever known was like ShopRite.
right.
It's like,
It's
was
like,
I was like,
whoa,
whoa,
what's going on?
What is this?
Yeah.
But so it's funny because like I feel like in my mind I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't really see other cultures till I went to college. And as you were talking, I was like, no, I literally went to the Indian grocery store with my mom that one time.
Yeah. That counts. That's why stuff like that, like, it even if it's like a small thing, it like can make a difference in some way, like even like a class that your mom was in. It's like,
Right.
Find something out about this culture, like go like do it, and then it's like it just can turn like fear, not that your mom had it, but like for a lot of people, like fear into like just like discovery and
Totally.
like just like
because anything that's not in your purview can be, it's unknown. So I think that can be a little bit inherently scary because it's the unknown
right
to you. But
do you remember any of the snacks?
I'm trying to think. As you were talking, I was trying to think of the snacks. I
Yeah.
know we got snacks. I
Yeah.
know for sure we got snacks.
Yeah.
And but there may have even been like snacks and treats that I wasn't used to, like that ingredient being in dessert form.
Yeah.
That maybe made me not like it.
Sure. Yeah.
We didn't even really cook with coconut.
Right.
in my house.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was all foreign.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I remember I was like dating this girl in college, and like I knew her from home, but like we were dating like during college, and like she had never tried Indian food. She's like, I want to try like the culture or whatever. I was like, okay, like yeah, it's really good. Like people like it. I think you'll like it. And then she was a white girl, and like her first response to like seeing like palak paneer or like something like saag paneer, she was like, that looks gross. And I was like, yeah, but like eat it, like try it. Also, like, just because it's not like one beige color of everything, like, doesn't mean it's, I'm like, just eat it, it's like fucking try
meanwhile, mashed potatoes is just a blob.
I know. And I was like, so like, enthusiastic. I was
course,
like, oh, like, here's
exciting.
this thing. And I'm like, this person that like I trust and like, and likes me, like, is like just shitting on the thing. And so it's like, it brought me back to like the reservations I had. Like,
totally.
But I had thought about that.
It's
I was
a
like,
form of rejection.
Yeah,
is what it
exactly.
is. Especially when people come on this show all the time and talk about how like food was always shown as like as a way of showing love.
Yeah.
So to have a girl that you're interested in, and you guys have this little like cute puppy love relationship going, and her being like, "That's gross."
I know.
It's like,
I know. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. In I don't know if like other guests have talked about like, or like in Indian, at least in like the region I'm from. I don't want to like speak for like the whole region, but
right?
It's
the
like
spokesperson.
It's like I think it's which is what I felt like growing up.
Yeah,
like,
for
not even just for India, like for fucking the world. I remember in social studies, like we'd like play like this current events like Jeopardy game, which was really fun. And anything, it was like Guatemala is going through this, and they'd be like, Herschel, what is it? I was like, bro, I'm sorry, and I would feel bad. I was like, oh no, like I'm like the representative like everywhere, like not like Minnesota.
The United Nations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was like some sort of delegate. It's like the ambassador to everywhere. They'd be like, Egypt has a new president. What's his name? They're like, Herschel, we need it. We can have a pizza party. We can have a pizza party if we get this question right. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. So it's like so much pressure, you know? But I don't even notice because, like force feeding is a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that, like honestly, like maybe in like a different, like I remember like as a kid, like my mom, like I had to finish my whole plate. Like I had to finish it.
Yeah.
Like even like if we were at dinner parties and like all the other kids got to like go and leave, I would have to like sit, and it would take me like hours sometimes, and I'd be like sat there just like eating, and the other moms would be like, oh good, like he needs to finish it, and like I would be like, oh, I just want to play, and like that was just like ingrained in my memory.
Totally.
But then also it's like a big thing to like, and I've told this to friends that come over to my place. I'm like, say you're full when you're like halfway full.
Right. You got to train them.
Yeah, because it's like, oh no, like no, like a no is not respected.
Right.
Like, and it comes out of this place, like in our culture, it comes out of a place of like love and hospitality, while like the kind of like incongruence you feel with like the Western culture is like, oh, you're not respecting my boundaries, like you're not respecting like what I'm saying when I say no.
Right.
While like there, it's like, no, you're being shy, and like eat more, and it's just like it's like a weird thing. So like even when I host, sometimes like I need to know how to turn it off.
Totally.
You know? Be like, oh no, have more, like have a, you know, and they'll be like, why are you making me like? I was like, oh, like I thought I was like doing the right thing. 'Cause this is what I saw growing up. Yeah. But like just having to like recalibrate that.
Totally.
It's like interesting. Like
that.
like,
No, that make that, you know, because what you're talking about of, you know, making like your plate had to be clean.
Yeah.
The constant offering of food.
Right.
Other cultures have that, but I do feel like there's more weight put to it with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you know, going over for Sunday dinner at like, you know, at your grandma's house for Italians is like a big thing, and like she's always pushing the food, and there's that level of respect there.
Yeah.
But and I think it's the same but different of what you're talking about,
for sure.
because it's like it is a respect thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my best friend, she's Chinese, and she's gonna be moving out of New York soon, and so we were having a going away. She threw a going away party, and there was pizza and little things at the table, and she would just like pick up a plate of food that wasn't being eaten and would like stretch her arm over me to give it to somebody and just put it in front of them till they noticed, so they would take. And I looked at her and I was like, I know what you're doing, but you just gotta relax. And she immediately started laughing, was like, oh my god, like I've like been hanging out with more Asian people, and this has been coming out of me more.
So interesting.
Because she used to do it all the time. We met in college, and so she used to do it all the time. And then kind of through hanging out with me, I was like, I know what's happening, but like you just don't offer it to people. Like they'll eat it if they want it. And I noticed that she did kind of stop doing that. And then as of recently, she's been doing it more, and was like, it was so funny seeing her catch herself and like me see it. It was so funny because it just is in the culture. She's like, I can't go to my mom's without just constant food being offered.
Oh yeah. And it's like if someone even just like pops in, like not just like snacks, like there should be like hot food offered. You know, that's like a thing. So yeah, it's like, and like, and my parents, like, you know, to their credit, have like, you know, thrived in this country, but they haven't really assimilated in a certain way. Like they hang out with mainly all other Indian people. Like they aren't really all up on like the cultural new things in America, or like, you know, like, and so it's interesting to like have to like kind of again be like some sort of like a UN delegate translator when like these worlds collide. It's like it's interesting, but it's like fun. I mean, when you're an adult,
worlds.
it's fun. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Learning so much. What else to talk about? Usually I have notes in front of me and I'm trying to like.
There was one. What was one thing I was going to bring up? Oh, kind of regarding food and like shame.
Let's
and like
talk about it.
And like just reject all that stuff. Like I would. So I went to my friends in Minnesota. It's like a big thing, like to go up north.
Okay.
It's like during the summer. And like, oh, we're going up north this weekend, you know, like we're going to go out in the lake and
Oh,
you
okay,
should come,
yeah.
you know.
Lake life.
Yeah, people have like cabins up there, like a second, like a second home kind of. And I got invited by my friend, like, oh, you want to come up north with like me and my family, and like there's going to be this other family that's coming too. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And his family knew I was a vegetarian, which is like nice and like rare, you know. It was rare for them, but they were like nice. And so I remember like waking up in the morning and like we went downstairs and they like made this big breakfast and they're like, Herschel, like we know you're vegetarian. Like they were so proud.
Yeah.
Like we know you're a vegetarian, so like we made you these scrambled eggs, like without like all the other stuff that this have. And at the time, like I didn't eat eggs either. Like I do now, but like my family doesn't eat eggs really. And so I was like, I was in this weird position where it's like, do I just fucking eat it because of like how kindly it's been offered and like the time it took for them to like make me a separate thing and like it was very sweet,
right?
Or do I like stay true to like family principles and like this tradition and like be like I can't eat that? Like, and so it was like as a fucking like I don't know 14-year-old to like just like having to like go through like this whole like thought process was like very. I think I ultimately like didn't. I think I didn't eat. Like I politely declined.
Right.
But there's a part of me that's just like they did it fine. I eat eggs and cake. I think I did at that point, and so I'm like, yeah, just fucking eat it. But like that was like from like a place of like love or whatever. I know I remember like for job and I went to law school.
Okay.
And so like when I'd like be interviewing for like law firm stuff, they'd like email me and they'd be like, hey, let us know if you have any like dietary restrictions. And I was like, I can't eat anything. So like maybe not a steakhouse, haha, but like, you know, I could kind of make way anyway. And I guess they forgot about that. And so like during like the lunchtime, like in between all the interviews, you have like, you know, it's 8 rounds of interviews where like 8 different people you're meeting with throughout the day. And then there's like a lunch break where you're still on the interview, like you're still meeting with people.
A working lunch.
Yeah, working lunch. And it was like, we're going to the best steakhouse in Dallas. And I was like, okay, thank you. And like I want to be grateful, right? But then like when push comes to shove, like I'm gonna order like the Caesar salad. They'll be like, you're not gonna get the ribeye or like what I don't know steaks, but like you know, so, like I don't know if that's a thing. I'm
not
sorry.
Your department.
Yeah. But it's just like I don't know. It's interesting, like wanting to like appease people and like be accepted while also like just like being true to like who you are yourself. Like it's like I don't know, I'm still working. I'm not like suddenly like confident and be like I won't do that. Like no, this is who I am, like whatever. But like just being forced in those situations, even like as like a grad student, like it's just like it like never ends kind of.
No, totally. I mean, to be, you know, 14 or however old you were, like to even think about that, like I was never confronted with those kinds of things because you also equate like accepting someone's food as like a sign of respect, as talked about. But you're also like culturally, I don't do this. You know. Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Heavy for your little. Not prepubescent at that point, but but your little adolescent body to handle. Yeah, like for the worst time ever. You're overthinking everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh man. So have you ever dealt with any kind of like mental health thing, like anxiety, or did you have anxiety about this stuff? Or
that's a good question. I think there was like I don't know if I can say like I haven't been like diagnosed in that way, but there was like a constant anxiety of like being found out in a certain way, you know, because like you know again until I was reminded by others, like I was basically like wanting to like be a white kid in Minnesota, like you know, like I like did the musicals and like I was in band and like choir and like all that. I happened to be the only brown kid like in these spaces, but you know, I think there was like you never know when you're going to be confronted with it. So I think there was like a wavelength of like just general anxiety throughout. Like I just remembered. I remember in like for choir, like a lot of choral music, like classical choral music was like was commissioned by the church, right? So it's like going to be religious. And I guess like our choir teacher got an email after like one of our concerts, like you shouldn't be singing like religious music. You should be like, you know, like Christian music, blah blah blah, and like I know, but but then my teacher was like, we should have a discussion about it if like you know people don't feel comfortable, blah blah. And I remember this is like a big choir, like I don't know 70 people, 60 people, and then this one kid is like, well, Herschel's not Christian, so do you have a problem with it? And I was like, no, not at all. No, praise Jesus. Let's do it. Let's go. I was like, why are you fucking, don't pin, again, like, I'm like I'm now like the representative for like everything. And I'm like, just because I'm cool with it doesn't mean everyone else might not be, but also like shout out, like, you know, Vivaldi, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know, so there was like a little bit of that anxiety. In terms of like, yeah, like.
It almost feels like, a movie like where you would be cast as like the token Indian kid in class. That feels like a scene out of a movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this could all be a movie. Maybe it would be boring, but it just feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, and yeah, like people would like. I remember in North Dakota, someone asked me like, "Are you Indian?" And I was like, "Whoa!" Like this kid nailed it. The first try, like it was like second, you know, like fourth grade,
Like,
I think.
Are you educated or racist?
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, I am." And then he was like, "What tribe?" And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I was like,
An
nah,
idiot.
you Columbused it a little
Right,
bit right there.
right.
You're like so close, but so far. But
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
it was,
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, you know, because I knew you were from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so I was curious to have a conversation with you about that because, you know, it's very different being an Indian kid in New Jersey.
I know. It's like, yeah, you're
There
like
are
kind of
no
a-
Indian grocery stores. Well, maybe now there might be. I don't know if was there Indian grocery stores?
Yeah, there were a few, like especially in like Minneapolis and stuff, like in
That's
like
true.
in
I
the
keep
city
forgetting
and
that
stuff.
you were in Minneapolis.
Yeah, but when we lived in North Dakota, like we would drive like hours and hours to like even just go to a mall or like a place where you could shop.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like 80 miles away, and like we would go there like every weekend. There it was like tougher to get like actually even get like Indian ingredients or like the spices and stuff. So
Right.
but yeah, in Minnesota there were like Indian grocery stores, but like when I go to like that section of Murray Hill that we call Curry Hill, I'm just like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, it still is cool to me. I'm like,
Right.
look at this, like these
Yeah,
like, huge
totally.
stores and stuff. Like it's yeah, it's, but yeah, I mean, like, I think, like, post 9/11, I think most brown people would agree was, like, always, like, kind of, like, a weird time.
Yeah.
And also, like, I remember, so I had moved to Minnesota in 6th grade, and this was, like, in September, obviously.
Yeah.
And, like, it was the first week of school, and I was, like, kind of just, like, getting along with people. And these kids had all, there it was K through 6, so, like, these kids had all known each other since
Right.
fucking kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then I show up with my brown skin and weird name, and I'm like, oh no, I'm a weekend, like getting to know people and making friends. And then I turn on the TV in like 6th grade, and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. And so I was like, okay, well, all right, 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
But so it was like, you know, just again having to like field a lot of questions. It was just like a lot of like press conference-y questions, like,
Right.
Are you Afghani?
Yeah.
Are you Saudi? Like, what's the difference? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
Senator, I'm Singaporean.
Yeah, exactly.
Senator, I'm
Singapore, I
Singaporean.
serve my country.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, it was, and I know people have gone through much worse effects of that. So like, I don't
But
want
you
to
still experience.
Yeah, it's still like,
it.
you know, experiencing it in that moment.
Especially,
And
it's interesting to hear how you experienced it at that time and place, because I feel like I watched the first season of the show Rami, and I feel
great
like
show.
that really depicted what it was like to be in, I think it was like based in Patterson, with 9/11 happening.
yeah,
As
and
a
it's so
ki-
close.
So close.
Right.
And so it was just like, it hit nationwide,
Yeah.
to
Oh
be-
yeah.
not white,
Right.
to be brown.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember this is I don't know if this is maybe a completely off topic, but
Let's do it.
in 7th grade, like I was in like tech ed. Remember tech ed?
No.
It's like shop. I think people call it like shop. Also, we have to like build shit.
Okay.
But we had to like research like a type of energy source.
Okay.
And like I had like nuclear energy. And I remember my teacher told me, he's like, yeah, a couple years ago, like the kid that had nuclear energy, like got us all on a field trip to like a nuclear power plant. And like he got an A. It was awesome. I'm like, all right, well, I'm about that A life. So like I called this nuclear power, the same one that this kid did. Again, this is 7th grade. So 1 year after 9/11,
Yeah.
around September, I'm like, hey, like I left a message. I was like, hey, this is like my name. Like I gave my name, and I'm like, I'm looking to like do a tour for like class. And then the next day, the cops were at my house.
Get the frick out of here.
They like everybody with my parents answer the door like, is Harshil Shukla like, and then they're like, yeah, he's in 7th grade. So I come, this like short little Indian kid. I'm like, yeah, and they're like, what are you trying to do with this like nuclear power plant? I was like, I'm in 7th grade. Like, I just wanted an A on my project. Like, we're gonna give it. I want to like maybe get a tour. My parents were like, what the fuck did you do? I was like, no, I was trying to get an A. I was trying to get an A. And so like that was like, and it was like the 1-year anniversary, I guess, of like 9/11.
Right.
So like people were on high alert or whatever. But like I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have done that if I was like, you know, like Dylan Christopherson or something.
Right. No, you should have said your name was like Harry Sherman.
Yeah, exactly.
Come
like
on.
use my stage name there.
Yeah.
Up,
Come on, buddy, down. Oh my gosh, you're getting antsy. It's gonna be time to wrap because I don't know what this is.
Oh, no worries.
God.
But, yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts.
And that has like a chilling effect on like just wanting to try at things.
100%.
You know what I mean? Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, how will this be perceived? Well,
Right.
like it wasn't even like, which is a good thing that it wasn't even the realm of my possibility. That like, oh, these people might think I'm a fucking terrorist.
Right.
But you know, it's like a sad learning lesson at like a young age. It's like, you won't be perceived based on what your intent is.
Right.
It'll like you'll have to think of this like outside of yourself.
Right.
So it was like, but it's like a funny story to tell now. The fucking cop
Yeah.
showed up.
Oh
Like,
my
parents are like, "What
God.
did you do, dude?"
Especially coming from a kid, it doesn't sound like you ever were in trouble.
No, not never. Like I was such a good kid. I'm a degenerate now, but I used to be a good kid. So.
Oh
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Quick question about that.
Yeah.
So like, I'm curious, being that you were such a good kid, did like you ever have a wild phase like in college? Was it like time to party?
Yeah, I think like having freedom was interesting like
Yeah.
right away. Like I think I definitely like, you know, dove into that pretty deep. But yeah, I got back on track, you know, afterwards, went to grad school, like did the whole thing. And then like, you know, I think the last couple years have been interesting because I was like in a really long-term relationship and then like got out of that, which
Yeah.
is like, again, sort of like the stability thing. And then just like having to be out there, like single, like in the world is kind of like, in New York, right? Like in your 30s is like kind of like a mind fuck.
Whole thing.
So, you know, I think I'm just trying to like recalibrate and like figure that out. But yeah, I remember I used to be like just so strict on myself and like just very regimented in a way
Yeah.
that I'm like, I wish I had like the drive and energy I had as like a senior in high school. Like, I remember like I'd get to school at like 6 a.m. and like I wouldn't come home from school till like every single practice and like whatever until like very late. And then
Yeah.
I'd be like fine the next day.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that'd be nice. Maybe it was just like, I don't know, the fear of parents but they weren't like that bad, but it's just
Yeah,
like,
but they're even because like I don't perceive my parents as being that bad, and I wouldn't describe them as strict, but
Mhm.
like I also had that fear
yeah,
of just like they never had to raise a bad kid because
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just so afraid of being bad.
Yeah. Fear is a helpful tactic.
It really
It's like a
is.
good
Fear
tool.
and shame are very
Yeah.
motivating factors.
Yeah, they are. It's so true. Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that power plant story.
I know.
I mean, I can believe it, but
Yeah.
like it's crazy, you
I
know?
It's nuts.
People forget how weird it was, how weird the world was post 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think we're all, especially now, like we all look at life through the lens of like post pandemic,
Right.
which is like totally, yep. They're
Yeah.
like, I perceive time differently between,
Right.
you know, before a pandemic versus after the pandemic. Like things are weird. Everything's like a little bit shittier, but, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. What was your pandemic like? Were you here?
I was here. I was in
Okay.
this very apartment.
Okay.
And I got to be honest with you, it was a reset that like I really needed.
Yeah?
I was just burning the candle at both ends. I was working nonstop, you know, having a day job, doing comedy.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it was stay inside,
Yeah.
you know. I still worked a lot when I had the job that I was at. My roommate that I was living with at the time was like, it was crazy. Like I would, my setup was in that room, and she's like, you would just be on at like 8 a.m. and then you wouldn't stop until 6 or 7, and
Yeah.
like you would barely break for lunch. But because I didn't have to commute, it felt like I was on vacation. You know,
This is awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and there was
Yeah.
also like so much happening in the world, so there was so
Right.
much to like scroll and see
Oh,
and
for sure.
take in.
Yeah.
And so the pandemic was weird where I don't consider myself at all agoraphobic, but I remember having that feeling of being scared to go back to normalcy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like the slowdown was so...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about that I don't know, today or the other day, of just how, like, I don't know where my life would have been if the pandemic hadn't happened. Like,
that's such a good
would I have
point.
would I have burnt out, like truly have burnt out, because it just was like, I don't know. My job was unsustainable. Just the level I was going was unsustainable.
Yeah.
So it was nice, just like, all right, I guess I'm just fucking here. I also connected with so many people.
Oh, yeah?
Because all of a sudden it was like, oh, all right, well, you're home. Let's have this people that I used to have a shore house with in the summers in Jersey get on a Zoom together.
Yeah.
That also would have been my 10-year high school reunion. So, like, I wasn't entirely sure that was even going to happen because I came from such a small school. And so it was like fun getting on a Zoom and seeing those people, you know, that kind of stuff. What was the pandemic like for you?
Yeah, I mean, just your point about like, if it hadn't happened, what would have been different? I was here too. I was in New York. I was in Brooklyn. And I don't know if I would have like started comedy, because I hadn't started comedy at that point yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have if it didn't happen. Because like I ended up like getting a new job like 2021. Like I was working like as an M&A corporate attorney, like crazy hours, which which already like was a lot of hours, like having to commute and stuff. And it almost like was worse during the pandemic, just because like you don't at least like get to hang out with your colleagues like in the same room commiserating. You're like at home in like a dark studio apartment, like staying up really, really, really late. And it's like, what's the point? Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I working towards? Like, where are these hours going? And it was great work, and I liked what I was doing at the time. But I think it did like make me become a little bit more introspective about like where I want to like spend my time, or like use my law degree, and like, you know, in what way. And so I ended up getting like a new job in like late 2021, and it was better hours. And then I promised myself, like, if I take this job, I'm gonna like do something creative with like the time that I do have now. And then like I started like going to mics and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think it was kind of like a reset for me too, but like just to like be like, when you take out like the fancy big building and like the conference rooms and like, you know, the fancy dinners and all that, you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, it's
corporate
like,
life.
Yeah, the corporate life. And it's like, I don't know. Like it was, so it was like a nice wake up call. And I think comedy's been fun. So I'm glad I started that. So yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I didn't know that you started after the pandemic, because you're very good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're very
kind.
good. So
thank
it's,
you.
And you're a great actor as well.
Oh,
so,
thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've done scenes together.
We have done, and they're some of the best ones. I feel like
fun.
when we get to work together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
God, we're just like gassing ourselves up. But gosh, well, we're pretty much at time.
Oh, word.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for dealing with the dog now that he's like,
now they're chilling.
He's tired out.
Yeah. No, this was a fun added element to the conversation. So
can you stay focused with dogs running around?
Yeah.
I was like,
show that you're a dog person while still continuing the conversation. Show that you like animals. Don't be weirded out.
Yeah, like as you were talking, I was like, Grimley's eating out of Finney's bowl. Finney's eating out of Grimley's bowl, but like, I'm not going to be like, hey, stop it.
Yeah. 1 sec.
Yeah.
Can we reset?
Yeah, we have to stop down. Amazing. Okay, well, let the people know where to find you.
Oh, I'm on Instagram, Shoe Claw. It's a phonetic spelling of my last name. So Shoe Claw, that's where I post a lot of stuff, and I'll post my shows and all that sort of stuff on there too.
Perfect.
But thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Everywhere that you can find Harshil will be in the description of the show notes. And until next week, I'll talk to you. Bye.